Yeah, thanks for finding this talk here. This was a bit short notice. I don't know, some of you know that my talk was actually yesterday, but when I entered the room, there was no projector and no screen, so I had to improvise and did a Q&A. And as a replacement, I got this slot here now, which was short notice. This is probably when no one is here except you. So thanks a lot for joining. Because we only have like a few people here, let's make this interactive. So always like interrupt me if there are any questions. That's the good thing about a small room here. Yeah, the topic is, of course, to talk a little bit how to build and run a sustainable open source company. A little bit about myself. I'm doing software development and open source for a long time, since the 90s, where I was contributor to KDE, for example, and some other open source projects, and then later founded some other organizations around open source, and now I'm here as the founder and CEO of Nextcloud. Maybe what's interesting is that in my KDE career, when I did KDE is a complete volunteer project. There's no company behind it, and this is of course cool and great, but the problem is that you cannot really pay your bills, right? So you can only do this as a fun hobby project. But yeah, sometimes software is so complicated that if you just do it 2-3 hours a week, that just does not work. And then maybe you're a core contributor, but at the same time you have to drop out because you finish with your university studies or get a family, and of course then there's a problem for the open source project. This is why I always thought that I wanted to look for a way to also like make open source, but also do this as a job. And that's of course then what we are doing at Nextcloud. The main motivation for me to found Nextcloud is because I wanted to have an alternative to these guys here, because I always thought that living in a world where like 5 big companies have all our files and all our communication is probably not a good idea. So there was the idea to have an open source, decentralized, self-hosted alternative to these companies. Who in the room knows Nextcloud? Not everybody? Then I give you a bit of an introduction. So we are basically the open source alternative to Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, so this productivity software. So we have Nextcloud Files. This is similar to Google Drive or to OneDrive. Nextcloud Talk is very similar to Microsoft Teams with chat and video conferencing. Groupware is very similar to Outlook, calendar, email, contacts, everything around that. And Office is, of course, for editing Office documents. And all of that is under the umbrella of Nextcloud Hub. Now, Nextcloud Hub is our main product with these different components. And as I said already briefly, the main difference is that this is all self-hostable and open source 100%. So sometimes people come to our website and want to create an account, and then I have to tell them I cannot create an account. Right? We don't host any data, so you can only download the software and deploy it wherever you want, and then you can create an account. Right? So we don't host any data, we don't have any files, we don't have any passwords, nothing. We're just providing the software so that you can run a service. So that's the main point of it. Then a little bit quickly about the product. This is Nextcloud Files, where you can upload and download your files, you can tag them, you can search them, you can share them with other people, you can synchronize them to all your devices, everything you expect. We have, of course, our mobile and desktop clients. So there are mobile clients for iOS and Android, and for desktop, Mac, Windows, and Linux, where you can synchronize your files between the server and your local devices for offline usage. Then there is Nextcloud Talk for chat and video conferencing. It looks very similar to Microsoft Teams or to Slack. You have your different room conversations on the side. In the middle, you have your chat messages, and you can share your documents in there, your Word, Excel files, you can collaboratively edit them, you can do a poll, you can do a calendar invite, you can do all kinds of things. And then, of course, you can press the call button, and it turns into a video conferencing tool, again, similar to Teams or to Zoom. Again, everything on your infrastructure. You can deploy this on a Raspberry Pi if you want, and you have everything local under your control, open source. Then there's the calendar, of course, also with calendar sharing and free busy view and integrations with Microsoft Exchange if you want, so all the powerful features. Then there's Mail. This is an email client very similar to Gmail or Outlook with all the usual features, S-MIME, GPG encryption, newsletter management, AI features, and everything else you expect. Then there's contact management. Again, can you synchronize to your phone, for example, or to your desktop? Then there's a small project management tool, Nextcloud Deck, which is a nice tool. It's a Kanban board where you can track your to-dos around, assign them to people, track the progress, and so on. And then there's the Office component, of course. This is based on LibreOffice, but it runs in the browser, obviously, as everything. You can edit your Word, Excel, PowerPoint files there, also collaboratively with different cursors, different people at the same time working in the same file. Then there is a whiteboard application, again, collaboratively with different people together. Then, as already mentioned, we have some AI features, but again, everything as Nextcloud, open source and running on your own device. So obviously, for the more powerful AI features, maybe a Raspberry Pi is a little bit too weak, but if you're a bit more powerful server, maybe even with a GPU in it, you have your completely local AI features. There we have functionalities like suspicious login detection, predicting shares with other people, do face recognition in your photos or object detection in your vacation photos and everything else you expect. There's, of course, then a full-fledged assistant, very similar to ChatGPT. Again, open source and runs locally. We can interact and, for example, do translations or ask for summarization of text and other things. But in my opinion, it gets more interesting with the integrations or in the applications. For example, here's the mail interface. You have on the left side the important emails, so you can detect your important emails, your priority inbox. It can also detect emails where you still need to answer, then they're specially marked. You can say, hey, this email thread is way too long. Please create a summary of the email thread. You can do that, and it can also suggest answers to emails for you. Then if you do a video call, of course, we have a transcript feature where then the video call is transcribed, recorded and transcribed, and it can also create a summary of a call. So if you miss a call with your team members, maybe on vacation, you can later look into the summary, you can see what was discussed. That's also super useful. Then maybe you know the problem if you're coming back from vacation and then you have a chat room with 1,000 unread messages. No one can read this anymore. They can press a button and say, hey, please summarize the conversations, everything that happened last week here, and you get a nice AI-generated summary. The real powerful features here in AI is, of course, because everything is local, everything runs on your servers, your infrastructure, you can fully trust them. Because with other solutions like Copilot, I don't know, I would not trust it because it reads all my data, all my files, all my chat messages, my calendar invites, everything. But this is local, so this is really a lot more secure. And because of that, the Nextcloud Assistant can actually access your local data. It can access your files, your chat messages, your emails, everything. And this enables a feature called context chat, where you can say, hey, when does all things open happen? And then it goes through all my documents and finds the right answer and give it to me. Or you can say, hey, what's the birthday of my uncle? Or, hey, what is the status with this customer? And it goes through all the data and gives me nice answers. This is a very nice, powerful feature. And then, of course, the latest one, we have the same thing everybody is talking about, which is agent support. So agency, so you can say, hey, can you please send a calendar invite to this person, and if there's for next week, but only if it's not raining, and please attach the summary of the latest support tickets with it. So it can do all these actions in the different components of Nextcloud and does it for me. So that's a very nice, powerful feature. So this is an overview over the functionality of Nextcloud. It's, of course, an open source project, but it's also a company. We have around 500,000 servers online, so not we, but you, basically, all the community. They're deployed wherever they want. We cannot really track them. We don't want to track them. But because of these servers asking our update server if there's a new release out, we can basically count them. So we know that we have over 500,000 servers on the internet. There are roughly 50 million users. This we don't track, but this is an estimation. On GitHub, we are one of the more active projects with over 2,000 contributors. And then we have this plugin system that we call apps. So we have over 400 third-party apps running on top of Nextcloud as a platform. So this is basically the open source project. And as a company, we are privately owned. We are around 155 employees at the moment in 25 countries. So it's very international all over the world. We only have 2 small offices in Germany. but most people are remote, of course. I'm personally very proud that we don't have any external investors, so we're completely independent, which means we have to be profitable every year, of course, and we are that. We're fully committed to open source. Everything we do is 100% open source, never everything else, and we always stay independent. That's basically the mission and vision of Nextcloud. We have a nice growth here. There's the growth of employees over the years, and we grow completely organically without any external funding or money. So this is the overview. Of course, the topic of this talk here is how to build a sustainable open source company. And there are, of course, lots and lots of things to consider, but I picked a few of the very important things, in my opinion, that I want to share with you. The first is ethics. I think a company and organization, open source project really needs some ethics, some guiding principles, and some things that are important for that. Because if you want to attract volunteers, they're giving you your time, right? And they only do this if this is useful what you're doing. If you really have something that is like ethical and sustainable and really useful for everybody, and also if you want to attract good employees, then a good salary is not enough. You also want to do something, useful. For this, ethics is very important. Also, Nextcloud is not just a company because of a company. It's really a project because, as I said at the beginning, the goal is to decentralize the internet again to make sure that not only 5 companies has all the data. So this is a bit more than a company. This is actually a bigger project. So when we founded Nextcloud 9 years ago, we gave ourselves some ethical principles, and they're still the same, and let me go quickly through that. First of all, sustainability is very important, so we don't really optimize for the next quarterly numbers or not for the big exit next year, but this is really an organization, a company, a software project that should stay around for many, many years. And everything we do is optimized for the long run, not just for tomorrow. Second thing is privacy and security. This is why we created Nextcloud in the first place, and this is very important. So we never track any users. We don't have any ads. We don't have any, any way to access your data. So this is, of course, one of the most important things. Then user-centered design is very important. There are a lot of open source projects who don't really focus on the user interface too much. It's very technical, but for us it's actually important that normal users can use it. So very good user interface design is very important. Actually, in the next room, my colleague Nimisha is giving a talk at the moment about open source design, so it's a bit of a bad scheduling here, but design is actually very, very important for us. Trust, this is more like for working with the community and working with the colleagues, because as I said, if everybody's remote, you don't really know what everybody's doing, right? So we need to work on a trust basis together. You cannot have this classic, the manager is looking over the shoulder of the developer if the developer is working hard enough. This is, of course, stupid, and we don't have that. We work together on a trust basis, very important. Open source, as I said, everything we do is open source, and it will stay like that. This is also the reason why we work nicely together with our community, because if we have open core, it's a model I don't like, then the community is not really fully in control of everything, so open source is key. Of course, also open standards, so we always use open standards, open specifications. For example, the documents are in ODF usually, or Markdown. Then we have APIs like Activity Path we support, or CalDAV, CarDAV, and so on. So everything is using open standards. Decentralization. That's also the reason why we as Nextcloud don't really run a Nextcloud service. I don't want to, because the goal is really to enable you to do it. Because if we would run an essential Nextcloud service, then it's the opposite of decentralization, of course. And community orientation is very important. Everything we develop is in the open on GitHub. Everything, all the issues, all the planning, the roadmap, everything is public. This is very important if you want to enable your community to be part of it. Inclusion and diversity is very important. I believe that if you're building software for the whole world, then it should also be developed by the whole world. That's very important. And last but not least, accessibility is very important. The software should be usable by everybody. So I think these are important principles, and I think this is very important that you have this principle and you should stick to it. It's important to really enable your team to make everybody committed behind the mission and vision, and it cannot be just like, I want to create money. It needs to be like a higher goal, and for me this is really key of a healthy company. Then the second thing I want to talk about is the good business model. That's of course also super important. As I said, everything is open source. We don't do open core. In our case, it's HEPL. We as a company also don't do hosting or do professional services, so you cannot really pay us for a specific feature. You can only buy the support subscriptions from us. So our business model is very similar to Red Hat or SUSE or to MariaDB, MySQL, and so on, where the software is free and you can use it and you should use it. And as I said earlier, hundreds of thousands of people are using it. But if you're a bigger organization, you probably want to have professional enterprise support, and this is what we are selling. So that's our business model. It's an annual subscription based on the number of users you have. We don't really sell to small organizations, so it starts with 100 users, but to be honest, 1,000 or 10,000 users, this is when it gets interesting, and this is why, how we make our money with the bigger organizations. And if you're smaller, just feel free to use it as you want. That's open source. Exactly. So we provide these enterprise subscriptions, and this comes with a lot of things. It's a lot of services around the software that we provide. It starts from expertise, so you have then direct access to our developers. If something goes wrong, if there's something is not working, you can ask them, and then they fix it for you, of course. There's influence. You can have influence on the roadmap. If you want to have a specific feature, you can tell this to us, and then we listen to you because you're a customer, and then we implement it probably the next release. So compliance is also important, so we provide certain certifications that are needed, like HIPAA compliance, for example, and other things. This is only company needs that, of course, not a home user. Security, like you get provide security patches and stability, like long-term support and other things. So these are a number of services around the software which are super important for big organizations and not for home users. And this is basically how we make our money. Then the third thing I want to say, which is important in my opinion, is you want to have a good architecture of the software and also a good positioning that should be different from your proprietary alternatives and built for scale. And I picked one example, which is very important for us, which is federation, the federation principle. So a classic SaaS service works, of course, like that. Right? You have the central infrastructure, the central service in the middle, and you have all your users and customers connect to the central service, which is, well, centralized and problematic. Nextcloud is already a bit better because everybody can host it themselves, and you have lots and lots of Nextclouds with the different users next to it. But of course, you can see the problem here. Everybody's isolated. You cannot really work properly together between the different servers. And this is why we introduced the concept of federation. Federation means that the different Nextcloud servers can actually talk to each other. So you can actually have different people on different servers can sharing resources with each other, even if they're on different machines. So if one of you has a Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi, some other on a university server or a company server or a service provider, but we can still all work together. You might think, okay, technically that's probably very, very complicated. Well, it's actually not, because this is exactly how email works. Right? With email, everybody can have their email server where they connect to it, but we can all send each other emails. This is because there's an open standard behind it. Email is not owned by a company. Also, there's no central email server in the world where you need to register. That's not needed, but we can still send each other emails. And this is exactly how we do this at Nextcloud. So I'll give you some examples. In Nextcloud Files, this is the sharing dialog. You can say, okay, I want to share my vacation photos or something else, like with this person, or you want to send out a share link if you want. But you can also say, hey, I want to share this with this user at that Nextcloud server. This uses the same conventions as email. You have username at instance name, and then my Nextcloud server pings the other Nextcloud server and says, hey, here's a share request from this user. Do you want to accept it? And if you click yes, then the two folders or the two files are connected, and whatever happens on one side appears on the other side and the other way around. We have the same for our social feature. There is a social networking feature, part of Nextcloud if you want to use it. This is speaking the activity pub standard, so this is compatible with Mastodon, for example, and again, same principle. Without a central server, we can all share things with each other. Then in Nextcloud Talk, our chat application, you can also invite people from other servers into your conversations. So you have a group chat with lots of different people talking with each other, but they're actually on different servers, decentralized. And this is only possible with Federation. And with the latest release, we expanded this to video calls. So you can actually have people from different servers in the same video call, and you can actually call people on different servers, where then they get a notification, and then their phone rings, and you can say, there's a call, click, and then you're in a video call, but you're actually on different servers without a central instance, which is quite unique. So I think if you want to have a stable, sustainable company, you need to have this like innovative ideas that people want, and if you just copy big tech companies, then it does not work. And the next thing I want to talk about is community. I think really being community-oriented is super, super important for an open source company, because especially if you're small, and Nextcloud is still small, we have way less resources than Microsoft or Google, but we're still competing with them. And that's, of course, how should this work? Well, this can work with the power of community. So really involve lots and lots of people into the development. As I said earlier, we have over 2,000 volunteers, and this is not even counting the translators or the application developers. So there are actually a lot of people working together on Nextcloud, and that's a key thing. So from my perspective, Nextcloud is basically supported by the company, but also from the community. And they are equal, in my opinion. It's not like you have a company and then you have some volunteers who help. No, for me, this is really, they're the same things, the same importance, and one part cannot live without the other. So this is very important for me. This is why I said we develop everything in the open on GitHub, pull requests, tests, reviews, issues, roadmap, everything is there. For example, we have the rule that every pull request needs to be reviewed by at least 2 other people. And this does not matter if this is an employee or a community person. Everybody is the same, and we trust each other, as I said earlier, and this works actually pretty well. So we don't really say, hey, the company has to approve every pull request or something, or we have this chief maintainer who decides about everything. We don't have that. It's really community-oriented. And this is contributing to the core of Nextcloud, but of course we also have our app store. It's not really a store, it's of course open source and free, but here everybody can publish their Nextcloud apps and say, hey, here's something I wrote, and share it with others, and other people can download it, install it with one click. That's another very important thing for empowering the community. And then also very important is to bring everybody together. So this is a picture of our community conference. This happened like 2 weeks ago now, where we had like 300 people there. Coming together for 2-3 days and working on Nextcloud together. So this now comes to a little bit of advertising here. How can you get involved? There are several things to get involved. First of all, again, everybody is invited to contribute. We have this web page where we have lots of starting points with tutorials and example codes, chat rooms, and so on. So if you're interested, then you can go there and get more information how to get involved. Then, of course, we are hiring. So if you're interested in a nice open source remote job, you can check it out here. And we are always looking for partners to bring Nextcloud to different industries and different places all over the world. That's also possible. Now I'm already coming to the summary. So for me, building a sustainable open source company, open source is absolutely essential. For me, this is a plus, not a minus. You sometimes get the question, hey, if you give away your product for free, how can you make money? Isn't it make everything harder? No, I think it makes it easier, because you can really leverage your community, you can work together, you get your the brand awareness all over the world, so it's lots and lots of benefits. And I think a very international and diverse team is absolutely key here.